welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Courtney. I am officially 6 weeks postpartum. I'm a first-time mom, and I really wanted to create a video of things I've learned within, like, you know, kind of that first month of postpartum, just navigating, nursing, sleeping, all the things, and share that with you to help make your postpartum journey just a little bit more easier and successful than this video is going to be for you. So I will have chapters listed on the side or down below, but I'm going to break it up starting with before you even deliver the baby. I'm sorry if you're already watching this and the baby's already here, but it is to establish visitation expectations. Basically, who's going to be in the delivery room with you, who's going to be allowed at the hospital, and who's going to be allowed to visit the baby in general once you have her and you are home from the hospital. So what me and my partner discussed was he was going to be the only one in the delivery room with me. I did not need a party in there, no. And then we only allowed the grandparents, so both me and my husband's parents, to visit while we were at the hospital. That is a time where you were like exhausted, you're recovering. And also, one thing you really need to think about is the introduction of germs. Babies don't get their vaccines until 2 months old. That's just an important factor I think everyone needs to consider, is the introduction of people, the frequency, the number of people, as well as like how important those people are, because they are introducing germs. So we told everyone up front before we even had the baby, like, hey, y'all are gonna be the ones that are allowed to come up to the hospital. Please wash your hands and do not kiss the baby. Those are the expectations. And then as for everyone else, friends and family, we kind of just let them know on a need-to-know basis. Like if they inquired, they would text us, be like, hey, can we come over? We would say yes or no. And at least something that helped with me and my husband when you're getting, you know, lots of visitors is limiting to like one group per day. So whether that's a couple or like your sister and nieces, like just one group per day. The next thing is to establish your partner's role in caring for your baby. And I think this is an ongoing discussion. You know, you can have this before a baby, and then once baby's here, we might need to, you know, go back and revisit this conversation. But one thing that worked for us is, since I was going to be breastfeeding, I told my partner, I was like, I want you to do diaper changes. And granted, if both of us are home, then sometimes it varies, but those night changes, honey, we're 6 weeks in and he's still getting up, doing the diaper change, bringing baby to me, and then I'm breastfeeding. It really doesn't take that long. It's just an easy way for you to feel supported and like everything's not falling on you. Because we have had some people that are like, oh my gosh, I can't believe both y'all are waking up. I'm like, the baby's in our room anyways. Like, we're both gonna be waking up because the baby's crying, and we both made this baby together, so like we're gonna have some skin in the game, you know what I mean? So that's what works for us right now. I feel like we've done a good job of like feeling like we can call on the other when we're like tapped out. Like there was one night where she just spit up a ton. I had already stayed up like an hour and a half and I was just exhausted, and I just like woke my husband up and I was like, you know, take her, like let me get some sleep kind of thing. Anyways, moving on. Another thing that really set us up for success was having freezer meals prepared. So a week or two prior to my induction day, I ended up getting induced. I had my mom come over and we spent literally the entire day making and preparing freezer meals, so that for that at least first week, if not 2 weeks, we didn't have to worry about food. And I cannot recommend this enough. I can't imagine what those first 2 weeks would have looked like had we have not done this. I mean, I guess I can. We would have just eaten out probably all the time, because I really didn't get into cooking until maybe even a week or two ago, and that was a month, you know, into postpartum. So get those freezer meals knocked out. Have, you know, people come over and help you. Like, you can make it a whole little get together thing, but it will save your butt, I promise. The next thing is to have your postpartum bathroom station set up, ready to go. I just kept mine and I'll show you. I kept it in a little basket like this, but obviously it was filled with postpartum things at the time. I'm past that and just on panty liners, but I had it stocked with pads and my peri bottle, witch hazel pads, all the things. If you haven't seen my postpartum video, definitely check it out, I'll link it. But have that ready to go so that when you get home, it's just one less thing when you get home you're having to deal with, that you're just like prepped and prepared. The last thing you should be doing before you even, you know, end up delivering, hopefully, is to wash and sanitize bottles and pacifiers. I did not do this because I had it in my head I was going to be breastfeeding and we wouldn't need bottles for like at least a few weeks, because they say to introduce a bottle after the 2-week mark. And so I didn't wash or sanitize the bottles. I hadn't even taken them out of the box. But within that like first few weeks, I was breastfeeding, but we were also supplementing with formula. That was just a task that is so easy to do, to just like further help prepare you if you need a bottle. Regardless of what your feeding plan is, you just never know what that's gonna be like until baby's here. We're gonna move on and get into nursing, and I've got my notes on my phone. The first thing I recommend is getting the, I think it's called Ovia parenting app. I'll show a little picture of it, but this thing I love. I love. You can track bottle feedings, breastfeeding, as well as like the number of wet diapers, poopy diapers. And when you are breastfeeding, it's so nice because you can time both sides. It's amazing. I don't know what I would do without this app, especially when you go to the pediatrician those first couple weeks and they're like, how many, you know, wet diapers, how long are you breastfeeding, whatever. And it's like, if I didn't have this app, I wouldn't even know what to tell them, kind of thing. And also both parents can have access to the app so they can input the data, like, you know, the diaper changes and things like that. So highly recommend that. It also will give you like a week by week breakdown of what to expect postpartum, as well as developmental milestones for your baby, which is just nice. So just some like quick, easy, like simple tips in regards to nursing. So I will say my sister is a wealth of knowledge. She is who I got a lot of these tips from, along with our pediatrician and the lactation consultant that we saw while at the hospital. But these are just some things that worked for us. They might work for you. But first thing is just the alignment of your baby and like how you want to hold them. There's all different positions. Really just find one that works for you, and also find one that works for baby in the sense of your baby being efficient in drinking your milk. I do the cradle method just because they taught us football hold at the hospital, and that is too hard to prep for in terms of pillows and things like that. But what I find to be the easiest is to cradle her, you know, like normal, and then I stuff a blanket underneath to help support my arm, and that seems to be way easier than using a pillow. That is just my opinion. I even also bought the My Breast friend, or I didn't buy it, but it was gifted to me at our baby shower, and I don't even use that. I started using it in the beginning. I just found it to be a nuisance to get on and off around you. I think having a thick blanket to just shove underneath each side, or a small pillow, works fine, and there's just like the least amount of prep. So that's something I personally like doing. And also just in alignment of baby, you're gonna want to align their nose to your nipple so that they're reaching up over your nipple and getting like a really large mouthful. That's just going to be the most efficient. And breastfeeding should not hurt if it's done correctly. I will say it's a little tender, and those first, you know, few, I wouldn't even say 2 weeks, maybe 2 weeks. I feel like after 2 weeks we kind of had our thing going. But if it hurts, like, get them off, okay? Because you can really damage your nipple if they're sucking directly on the nipple. And to do that, you're just gonna like put your little finger, or your finger, in their little mouth like a fish hook, and that releases the suction and it'll get them off your boob. But I will say I had a moment where like they were really bruised because she had an incorrect latch, and that hurt. But surprisingly, recovery, I just pumped the next session, gave her that bottle, and then I was good to go breastfeeding after that. But they call it the smash latch. Like, as soon as you see their mouth open wide, you smash them to your boobie, you know, gently. We're not actually smashing them, but we're bringing baby to us, not us to baby. And making sure their lips are flared out. So you want to see that lower lip down and that upper lip up around your nipple. Another thing, this is what I had to do, because in those early weeks where your supply is still getting established, it can be really draining mentally. There were quite a few times, especially in the first 2 weeks, that I really just wanted to throw in the towel and give up on breastfeeding. I think it's one of those things where I always say, like, don't believe an indoor thought, or don't believe a late night thought, because it was the late nights, it was the feeding at night that I really struggled with. I feel like mentally, of like wanting to quit. And I just always told myself, like, let's just push it past the 2 weeks. Let's give it a month. Let's give it my maternity leave. Like, set, I feel like, a deadline where you're like, I'm going to do whatever it takes. I'm going to try as hard as I can to make this work. And if I'm still like, this isn't going well by this date, then like, fine, let's switch to formula. I think that's totally fair, because there are so many factors when it comes to breastfeeding. And I knew for me what was causing like me not to like it was really the nighttime feedings, because you're exhausted, they're taking forever because they're inefficient, your body's inefficient because it's still trying to build up that supply. And I really felt like it was an impatience thing. Like, during the day we were chilling, like it really wasn't a big deal, but at night is when I hated it, because I was impatient, because I'm just ready to go back to bed and get some sleep. Another thing we did that helped me, at least mentally and physically, was our pediatrician said that we should not be breastfeeding any longer than 40 minutes, because at one time I was going an hour. And my God, that is exhausting. So our pediatrician was like, no more than 40 minutes. And that's best for you and for baby, because you need to get rest to build that supply. Baby needs to get rest. And what she meant by that is, like, breastfeeding is not, you're not just burning a lot of calories, baby is burning a lot of calories. Like, it is something a lot harder to do than just giving them the bottle. Like, they're actively having to work for it. So I would do 20 minutes on both sides, and if she was still hungry, that's when we would follow up with an ounce or two of formula, just depending on how hungry she was. And that really worked for us. And I will say I was nervous about that, in the sense of, how is my body ever going to know how much it needs to make if we're constantly following up with a bottle? But I'm telling you, over time, like, we had to give her less and less bottles, the amount decreased, and I'm officially 100% breastfeeding her. My words of encouragement for you would be, if this is important to you, please try, please seek help, go to a lactation consultant, go to a trusted friend or family member. And what was very strange to me was when I would tell people in those beginning weeks, like, you know, yeah, we're kind of struggling with the breastfeeding, whatever, how quick every single person almost was like, oh, just do formula, you know, like, it's not a big deal, blah, 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 blah. And I know they were trying to be helpful in the sense of, like, it isn't a big deal, like, to formula feed your baby. Like, fed is best, okay? I'm here for that message. But it was annoying to me in the sense of, breastfeeding is important to me. I'm sharing with you that I'm struggling, and it feels like everyone's just like, well, throw in the towel and formula feed. Whenever I was sharing that struggle, hoping to get, I guess, words of encouragement, not just like, hey, you should quit. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think always doing what's easier is what's best, especially when it comes to breastfeeding. And it's something that takes, you know, a few weeks, a few months to really get that routine and get established. And it is so easy. Now I don't really even think about it. And she's been breastfeeding now for 20 minutes, so 10 on each side. So the more efficient she gets, it's great in terms of sleep, as well as it just feeling like, I don't want to say a nuisance, but kind of, you know, just not as time constricting. Okay, another tip is, in those first couple weeks when they are such sleepy little babies, to keep them awake during feedings, I recommend just undressing them down to their diaper, or at least getting them out of their swaddle. That's what we had to do for my baby, because she would literally just sleep if, you know, we weren't actively trying to keep her awake. I would turn on the bedside lamp next to me, but I wouldn't do the overhead light or anything. It's like a balance of, yes, honey, it's nighttime. Yeah, like, we're trying to get you on days and nights. So we're not wanting to, like, fully wake her up with all the lights on, but you do need a light on to be able to see. Another thing would be to get a little night light, and we have both. I use my lamp that's on my nightstand, and we also have a night light. I'll put a photo of it here, and I'll put it on the red light, which supposedly, I guess, doesn't interrupt or interfere with baby's sleep as much. I don't really know, but we use that every night. I love that thing. Highly, highly recommend. I am gonna make a video just about all like the newborn essentials, especially now that we've had a few weeks, to really see what was essential and what we could have passed on. Oh, another tip for nursing to see that they are full is to lift their arm up, and if it just drops like a wet noodle, then they're full. If they are still hungry, they're gonna like tense up when you try to move that arm away, and so they're still hungry. And that has been a life-saving tip that my sister gave me, because I always know kind of, you know, where we're at in that process. Another thing is burping between changing sides. We just entered a spit up phase out of nowhere, but to remember that their digestive systems are still developing, and then keeping baby upright for, we just do 10 minutes. Could we do longer? Maybe, but just to kind of help prevent the spitting up, or at least the amount. Okay, my last 2 tips for nursing, that I promise I'll move on, is when it comes to nighttime feeding specifically, to my setup is I have one AirPod in and I have my phone and I'm watching something. This is just what works for me, because especially in those early weeks when you're not getting a whole lot of sleep and you're exhausted, I physically needed to be looking at something to stay awake. A podcast was not doing it. Music was not cutting it, okay? So I would watch a Netflix show or just something, YouTube even, to keep me awake. And I really think this also helps with just leaning into that time, like not being as impatient. When you're just there with your baby, nursing them in the middle of the night with nothing, you're gonna feel that impatience of like, okay baby, like are you done? Like I'm ready to go back to sleep kind of thing. And so just really lean into it and make it as comfortable for you as it is for baby. Make it an enjoyable time, because I promise just staring at your baby, it gets a little old after a while. And one thing I was always concerned about was if I would be too tired and falling asleep with her in my arms and like dropping her. That is like one of my greatest fears. Still is. So I always just want to make sure I am like actively awake and engaged in something at nighttime. Okay, and the last tip is to just wear something comfortable, like a large t-shirt or just something more loose fitting, just so you can easily lift it up to feed. Oh, something I didn't mention, I do see people make like shorts or YouTube videos where they are just like in a wet t-shirt because their boobs are leaking. Like that does not have to be your journey, okay? That would drive me insane. So I'm always in a bra at this point. I'm always in a nursing bra, and I always have like removable nursing pads, because I don't want to feel wet. Like that grosses me out. So that's just something to consider, or to have ready to go if you don't, is nursing bras and nursing pads. That way you're not leaking all over the place and feeling gross. So let's move on from nursing. That has been a hot topic. So the next thing is sleeping. The first thing is using a swaddle sleep sack. I am not the best at, you know, wrapping a blanket, whatever. I knew I wasn't gonna be good at that. So I made sure to get sleep sacks or put them on my registry. And not all of them are the same, okay? I think that's really important to mention. So I would not recommend going ham and buying like 5 of the same ones, because you don't know what your baby's preference is going to be. We use the Halo swaddle sleep sacks. She really likes those. Those are easy for us. I like the double zipper because they're easy to get her in and out, especially at night. But we also tried her in, I don't know what these are called, but the sleep sacks where their arms are up, like maybe the angel sleep sack, I don't know. And our baby will put her hand in her mouth if she's hungry, and I didn't like that she had access to her hand, and granted it was covered, you know, it's in the sleep sack, so that was just a no-go. But that can really help with your baby's startle reflex. But some babies might sleep better without it, and you don't have a baby that has, you know, a really crazy startle reflex. So just not going ham on how many swaddles you're buying. Just have like maybe 2 different versions available, so that once you figure out their preference, then you can go in and buy quite a few more. And I will say, at least with the Halo one, it's 0 to 3 months, so she's going to be in it for a little while, you know, and we have, I think, 4 of them that we cycle through. The next thing is contact naps, especially in those first few weeks. One, they tell you to, because it helps regulate the baby's like breathing and things like that, and just it can help calm them down and it is, I think, the closest they can get to feeling like they're still in your womb. So it is important in the sense of bonding and that whole process that's occurring. But one thing I did, which I know everyone's gonna have an opinion about this, but is sometimes she will sleep the best when she is contact napping. And when you are not getting a lot of sleep, that can be hard too. So something me and my partner would do when, if he's in the living room and I just like really needed to sleep, but like I knew if I put her down, she was just gonna wake up, or like she wasn't gonna nap on dad, or she already fell asleep on me, whatever the case may be, I would just nap with her on the couch and like literally put pillows and stuff alongside of me so there was nowhere I could roll. And then he's in the room with me. I will say there were a few times he wasn't, where it's like, what is the risk we're running here of like being too tired during the day to care for your baby, or potentially obviously suffocating your baby if you are doing that whole co-sleeping thing. We don't co-sleep. I don't consider that co-sleeping because I would only do it on the couch where I'm laying flat on my back. There's nowhere for me to go. And it was as a last resort. It wasn't all the time. I can literally count on one hand how many times I have contact napped with her. But I will say it's just a tool to have in your toolkit if you want to bring it out. If you don't, I totally get it. So something to mention is that we do have our bassinet in our bedroom. I think this is just the easiest, aside from it, you know, decreasing the risk of SIDS. I think it is just the easiest in terms of like waking up in the middle of the night and having easy access. I will say we don't keep her bassinet next to our bed. You do have to get up and walk across the room. And I do think it's probably for the best. Babies make a lot of noise when they sleep. They are not silent sleepers, okay? So she's far enough away from us where it's not always interrupting our sleep. Like I really don't ever wake up unless I'm hearing her like crazy stir where like she's definitely about to wake up and want food, or she's crying because she's hungry or needs a diaper change. So we do choose to have her away from the bed but still in the room. And I think that also helps in terms of like using a nightlight and it not just being directly in her face, as well as we have dogs, and I don't think they would ever do this, but it is something I've considered of if you have that bassinet pushed right up against the bed, of the dog being able to get inside the bassinet with the baby. I don't know. I might just be a little like, I don't want to say helicopter, but just like that kind of freaks me out. So that's just worked for us. Another thing is to have a baby carrier. I'm not a huge fan of them in the sense that they are just kind of annoying to have to wrap around you and do all the things, because when they're that little, you can't just plop them in a normal baby carrier. It has to be the wrap ones, just because they're little potatoes. They need to be like locked down on your body. But I will say it does help. My baby at least naps really well in it, and it helps you get a few things done. I just don't really love the process of having to put them. So night station. What I have on my nightstand is a burp cloth, a small little pillow. So during the day, I'll use the blanket method of propping that to have support while I'm nursing. But at night, I use this part of the pillow. It's detachable from my like pregnancy pillow, like the long J ones that are like a body. I use that. So I have that on my nightstand. Water. Everyone talks about how hungry you are when you're breastfeeding. I don't get that. I am thirsty, and I'm not even someone that likes drinking liquids or water in general. Like I am so thirsty when I'm breastfeeding. So having water ready to go, my AirPods, my phone, a wireless phone charger I think is key. That is something I switched right before we delivered, was I didn't want to be looking for a cord in the middle of the night. You know what I mean? I wanted to be able to just put my phone down and know it's charging. So that's just a little tip. All right, next I'm gonna get into traveling with baby. It's very short. And then the last section is just some tips that don't really fall into a specific category. So the next thing I want to talk about is traveling with baby, because you will have quite a few appointments within those first couple weeks, mainly doctor's appointments or getting their newborn blood screening, all the things. So it's unavoidable. You will be getting out with baby whether you want to or not. So what I will recommend is to keep the diaper bag stocked and in the car. Our diaper bag does not leave the car. It has been honestly so great because we just get up and go. We need to go somewhere, okay, put her in the car seat, strap her in, and we're ready to go. But you do have to be diligent in keeping it stocked. And maybe I'll do a what's in my diaper bag video in the future. Another thing, and I think maybe again, this is, you know, gonna be dependent on how your baby is, but my baby needs to be fed right before we put her in the car so that she'll just sleep, because she really doesn't like it when you're stopped. She likes a moving vehicle and she needs to be fed. She does not want to be hungry when she's in there. And I don't find that she really spits up or anything. Like, I can physically feed her and immediately put her in the car and it's fine. So these are gonna be some random tips, and I'm just gonna fly through them because I know this has been a long video. And I do wanna mention, like, my whole channel isn't going to be about motherhood and things like that, but this is currently the season I'm in, so that is why so many videos have been centered around having a baby, being pregnant, postpartum, all the things. First tip is to read you and your baby's discharge packet. I had a UTI and I didn't know it. Shockingly, the results said it was negative for a UTI, but the antibiotics worked, so like, clearly I had it. And in the discharge packet, it did say, if you experience burning while urinating, to call your doctor. And I didn't read my discharge packet, or maybe I did and I forgot. I don't know. Those couple days were a blur. But to read your discharge packet so you know what to expect, especially for baby. That is one thing I did read. I just didn't read the one for myself. Next tip is to get a baby bouncer, the ones that can fit a newborn. Not all of them are created equal. Not all of them are made for newborns. And the bouncer has been a lifesaver in the mornings or when I need to go to the bathroom. And I'm saying this as someone that's home with the baby all day because my husband, again, is working and I'm on maternity leave. So if I need to go to the bathroom, she doesn't always, for the most part, love being laid down, but she doesn't mind the bouncer. So I'll put her in the bouncer and then go and use the bathroom, and literally the bouncer will be in the bathroom with me so that I can see her, because we do have dogs. Another way I use that bouncer just as a lifesaver moment is in the morning, or when I'm trying to make food for myself or feed the dogs or make breakfast, whatever it is. It just allows me to be hands-free because she still wants to be held a lot. She is little, she's only 6 weeks. But it gives me that peace of mind of, one, she's happy hanging out. I usually put her by a window. She prefers that, to look out. And it allows me to get a few things done in that moment, knowing she's safe and she's happy. Because again, if I just lay her down on the floor sometimes, or on her bassinet or in her crib, and she's not tired or like ready for that, or maybe she's gonna spit up, it's just not the move. So the bouncer does help with keeping her upright, to help with that reflex, especially after feedings. The next tip is to remain flexible and open to trying new things. Not every baby is the same. I really feel like it's a lot of trial and error, and yeah, that's all I'm gonna say on that. The next one is to do something for yourself every day, whether it's makeup, working out, maybe, you know, organizing something that's been on your to-do list for a long time. But I think that is essential. I do want to make a video, I think, about like how I'm thriving in postpartum, because it has been such a breeze. I've really enjoyed feeling like myself, and obviously everyone's postpartum journey is different as well because of hormones and things like that, so that is something to consider. But the first, I would say, 2 weeks, I put on makeup every day, not a lot, but you know, enough to make me feel like I did something for me. And then starting week 3 is when I started on going on walks and things like that, and that has really made me feel good, and I feel like kept me in a good headspace. The next tip, and this was something I read, I think, on Reddit, was keep in mind the first 2 weeks are just about survival. Once I read that, I was like, okay, I can do this. I can get through these 2 weeks and it's gonna get better. And it really does. Every day is a little bit easier. You're recovering. Like, I felt like in the beginning, I was like, I'm never gonna be able to bend down without like feeling like I'm gonna tear something or whatever. Like, I'm never gonna feel normal again. But you know, every day it does get better, and it will surprise you how quickly your body heals itself. It really is amazing. So just know, first 2 weeks is about survival. It will be fine, I promise. The next one is gonna surprise you, but it's to get out of the house. I went a lot more places than I really thought I would, and I think this is heavily dependent on the season like literal season that you have your baby. It's summer, so we're not talking cold and flu season. So I pretty much get out of the house with her, I would say every other day, doing something, whether it's to go on a walk or maybe it's to go pick up groceries, you know, whatever it is. But I get out literally almost every single day. And part of that is also just in my nature. I'm not someone that can sit and watch hours and hours and hours of TV. Like, that gets old after a certain point, and you'll probably get there. Like, you're gonna run out of shows. And I do think it has helped with my mental health of getting out, and as well as seeing people and visiting with people. We've gone to a graduation party, we've gone to a baby shower, we've done different things. I will say we're not letting people hold her. Like, it's not like it's a free-for-all and we're playing pass the baby when we go places that have more people. But I will say I do think it helps establish some sense of normalcy, and it doesn't make you feel isolated, because I do feel like a lot of people complain about the isolation of those first few months, you know, when you have a baby. But I'm like, this is when the baby's kind of the easiest, you know what I mean? Like, let's go out, baby will sleep, and or we'll be eating, and it's, I feel like, a lot easier to do now versus when we have like a toddler and the toddler has an established bedtime routine and things like that. But like right now, baby's just going baby, you know what I mean? And I do think it really has helped mentally to just go out and about and, you know, do a few things. So my second to last piece of advice is to be really intentional with your time, which I think you're gonna do this naturally because you only have, you know, such limited windows where you're not gonna be holding the baby, especially if you are breastfeeding. Like right now, she's been napping, so I got ready, and I haven't gotten like ready like this in a while, so it feels really nice. And then just getting to do something for myself, which is filming this video kind of thing. The very last thing I want to leave you with is just to remember, like, babies are very simple. Are they wet? Are they hungry? Or are they tired or just need some love? Like, that's really all it comes down to. Something I will say to look into though is the purple period. Again, the more you know, I feel like the more you're not gonna be like, oh my gosh, is something wrong? So one thing I will leave you with about the purple period, do your own research, but it's just talking about a stage in development in these early months where crying is at its peak. Like, it is at the most. And just knowing that possibly baby could be crying for no reason, or maybe is crying a little bit louder, a little bit longer than normal, and it's a part of their development and not something you're doing, because it's gonna be like, what changed? You know, baby was so easy and now she's crying more, or something like that. I think it's just really important to be informed about that. And that was actually in our discharge packet from the hospital. So look into that, because that is something you're gonna experience pretty soon if you haven't already. But I'm gonna stop here. I know this video has been a lot, but I really just, I'm always just wanting to share what I'm learning with other people, just hoping it will help you in the future or right now. But leave all your tips listed below. And if you are, you know, past the 6-week mark, I would love to hear like your future tips for me. But I will see you in my next video.